all kinds of fun stuff. And now you're sitting here listening to a lecture. But I'm going to try to make this anything but a lecture, okay? So, first of all, good afternoon. My name is Paul Kitchen. I'm easy to remember because you all have one, right? I serve the Floyd County Historical Society as a volunteer collections manager, and all that really means is that I take care of really old stuff in our collections and make sure it's safe and secure. But before I go any further, I just want to thank the folks here at the Center for the Arts for putting on this event today and this program and allowing us to be part of it. So let's give them a round of applause. So, some 12,000 years ago, so just bring yourself back, humans began to migrate from what we call today Eastern Siberia across the northern land bridge onto the North American continent. As the last ice age receded, these humans followed game and improving climate conditions deeper into the continent. During this archaic period, between 10,000 and 3,000 years ago, migration brought those post-Paleo Indians to the eastern shores of New Virginia. Known as the Kanawha Valley Indians, some of them found conditions ideal inland. Kanawha tribes were drawn to this land that is now Floyd County by guess what? Buffalo Mountain. Buffalo Mountains, buffalo, sacred to the Native American folks. Place names like Indian Valley, Indian Ridge, remind us that Native Americans camped and hunted here long before white explorers arrived. Evidence of their presence is often found when the ground is disturbed. I even found arrowhead hunters on excavated ground when my house was built in 2017. So beginning in the 18th century, the forested rolling hills of the Blue covered with the blooms of the crescent tree like snow in spring, beckoned newcomers of European descent. Some were first or second generation German or Scotch Irish immigrants moving down from the Shenandoah Valley from Pennsylvania. Other early arrivals, mostly of English and French lineage, had been in the colonies much longer. Some had even become prosperous enough to purchase slaves as successive generations pressed westward towards the mountains from the Virginia Piedmont. Mountain gaps opening onto the Blue Ridge Plateau from Floyd made Floyd a natural shortcut between the Carolina Road to the east and the Wilderness Road to the west. Many people passed through these and stopped only briefly, but many others found what they were seeking. Rain falling on the eastern part of Floyd County makes its way quickly to the Atlantic Ocean, but the majority of the county lying west of the Eastern Continental Divide is drained by tributaries of the New River, whose waters eventually reach the Mississippi River. Headwater streams suitable for small grist mills, sawmills, flow from the county in virtually every direction. As various groups settled along these streams and became neighbors, cultures mingled and were adapted to the new lands, establishing ways of life that seemed to hardly change for generations. Yet, we constantly are reminded that they were modified. Churches, stores, 1- and 2-room schools, post offices, and mills were often unifying features of the communities around them, supplying both a name on the spot of a map, but also a sense of identity to the people nearby. As we move forward in time, the 19th century brought great change to Floyd County. It was caught up in the national concerns with citizens divided by issues of slavery and succession. And many county natives moved on to westward lands. One of Levi Coffin's underground railroad routes ran through the southwest corner of Floyd County. Local men served in several Confederate regiments, including the 24th, the 42nd, the 54th Virginia Regiments, the 21st Virginia Cavalry, Stuart's Horse Artillery, the 4th Virginia Reserves, and other units. General George C. Stoneman and his army took the surrender of Floyd in early April 1865, and of the other leaders, including a Floydian known as Wadley B. Evans, who later became a rear admiral in the U.S. Navy and a hero in the Spanish-American War. World and national events continued to shape Floyd County in the 20th century. Floyd men stepped up to do their part in World War I. And Prohibition, the era led to a spike in crime rates and illegal distilleries were replaced with illegal stills and bootlegging. NASCAR origins traced back to drivers like Floyd County's Curtis Turner, who hauled moonshine over the curving country roads. With Mayberry Mill as a major attraction, more miles of the Blue Ridge Parkway ran through Floyd County than any other county in Virginia. During the Depression, residents found work federally funded programs such as the Civilian Conservation Corps, the Works Progress Administration, and the Emergency Relief Administration, as well as working for private contractors building the Parkway, certainly an economic driver at that time. As men headed off to World War II, women once again took over farms and many went to work in factories. Throughout the first half of the century, more and more families left their farms for public works jobs. One-room schools were consolidated into 4 county elementary schools, and returning veterans opened new businesses. With the advances in automobiles and electricity and paved highways, more Floyd Countyans began to travel beyond their home communities for work and pleasure. Ministers and musicians, farmers and entrepreneurs, baseball players and shopkeepers, plowmen and politicians were all faces forming this portrait of Floyd County. Floyd County has a rich and varied history worth of care. The Floyd County Historical Society provides this care. The society was formed in 1976, the bicentennial of our country. Incorporated in 2004, the Society maintains a museum and archive at the former Ridgemont Hospital building on North Locust Street, right next to that Carter Bank. This Victorian vernacular style building was built for Dr. Martin Luther Dalton in 1913. Dalton is believed to have had Lather Hilton, a well-known builder of many Floyd structures, to construct his new office and hospital, which Dalton named the Ridgemont. On the first floor was a surgery and pharmacy, examining room, and an x-ray machine. The first one here in Southwest Virginia. And by the way, if you do go over to the museum and you go into the operating room, don't miss the hole in the middle of the floor. You can imagine what went down there. Dalton ran the hospital from its opening in March 26, 1914 until 1923. Subsequently, Dr. Silas Gates used the building for his offices. In 1950, the building became the home of Marie Williams, a longtime teacher here in Floyd County Public Schools and the first president of the Floyd County Historical Society. After her death, the Floyd County Historical Trust acquired the building and asked for renovations, offered it to our society to use as a museum. The society began operating the museum in 2010. Since founding, the mission of the society has been, and I quote, "The purpose of this society shall be to maintain a nonprofit association for persons interested in the past and present history of Floyd County, Virginia, and surrounding areas. To encourage the collection, maintenance, and preservation of significant historic material related to Floyd County and surrounding areas. To focus public attention on the society and its goals. To stimulate the use of the society's resources, to receive and encourage gifts, endowments, and bequests to the society. To support and cooperate with existing historical and educational organizations within the county in developing and providing facilities for historic research in the community and lend legislative support to the movement." With this object in mind, of sharing our collections, we curate an annual exhibit at the Ridgemont. This year the theme is the 1960s. Each exhibit features artifacts from our own collections and from items on loan. Our next exhibit will celebrate what you just heard, music and musicians. Okay, so let's tie this together. When you visit our exhibition downstairs, you will be taken back some 10,000 years to the early Archaic period through the late Woodlands period with a collection of artifacts. All of these artifacts were discovered here in Floyd County, including the points, the drills, the grinding stone, tools of bone and stone. These show the living traditions of the tribes that traversed and hunted the area. The majority of the collection came from the Sisson site, number 44 FD4, Floyd County, Virginia. The excavation covered about 1 acre in the northwest part of the county, drained by Rush Creek, which flows into the Little River. Diagnostic lithic tools were recovered, ceramic artifacts, date late to the late Woodland period. Based on artifact collection, the site was described to represent a series of short-term prehistoric campsites. Other artifacts have been discovered and collected by local residents and donated so they can be preserved for all of us to study. Moving forward in time, you'll see in our exhibit handcrafted blankets, coverlets, rag rugs, baskets, and brooms. These artifacts are of the late 19th and early 20th century. These items were created by hand and on looms or in early mills using long-established material and wool spinning, dyeing, and weaving techniques. Remoteness required a high degree of self-sufficiency. Countians needed to make or grow whatever they needed to live comfortably. It was not until the Blue Ridge Parkway was built that the modern convenience of electricity and properly vetted roads came to the plateau. This display includes a hand loom and other tools that were used to make all of the things that you see. They had to be self-sufficient. After all, there was no Walmart store or Amazon.com to order from. However, there was Sears and Roebuck. The catalog did serve well, even if it took a month to get your order in hand. Speaking of a loom, if you have a smartphone in your possession, please rise up. Who's got a smartphone? Okay? All right. So, the ancient loom. My question to you is, what does that loom and your smartphone have in common? Here's a hint, your smartphone is a computer. Any idea? Networking. Programming, yes. Binary code. You've heard of binary code, zeros and ones. The hand loom, over time, became automated. And that automation required control systems. One of the earliest control systems was using compressed air distributed to solenoids from a manifold. And in order to make the air go through the right port in the manifold, you had a strip of paper. It was punched with holes. The holes were the zeros, no hole was a one, binary code. So the origins of binary code go back as far as the hand loom and how it was developed into machinery. Here's an interesting shot. This lady, this is punch cards. This was the first way computers were done with binary code. There's 65,000 cards in that pile, and it equates to 5 megabytes. Minuscule. Absolutely. So, as you can see, our past history connects to our present state. Understanding the past and how it influences today leads us to a learned future. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about our exhibit or about the Historical Society. Yes?
When was that big done about that recovered those artifacts?
Yeah, that Siebertzition, that particular dug was done in the northwest corner of Floyd County, almost on the next county's line, and it was dug on Brush Creek. Brush Creek drains into the little river. It was done on a northern facing slope, about 1 acre of what was described as a plow field. Now it's interesting that these discoveries were all done pretty shallow. So it would be relatively recent, probably in the last 3,000 to 5,000 years that these artifacts were deposited.
So was that over near Indian Valley?
No, it's up in the north, but heading towards Roanoke.
Oh, okay.
Right, so you go up 221 all the way up. It's on the far northwestern part of the county. Downstairs, I actually have a map of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, miss?
I don't know if this is part of that, but you talked about the schools and the one-room schools,
Mhm.
schoolrooms. Do you know if there was a Rosenwald school in Floyd County?
Yes, there was. So I have documentation to show that there was a Rosenthal school here. In fact, I've had that question recently. Someone sent me an email. Was that you?
No.
Well, yes, there was. There was one school here. In the museum, we have a binder filled with a fact sheet about every school that we had here in Floyd County, and you can find it in there. It was the Harris Hart School, I believe, was a Rosenthal school.
It's a Rosenwald school.
Rosenthal was an organization that gave grants and money to build schools and to promote education. This would have been in the 50s, 1950s. Yeah, it was around the period of time when integration of schools was starting to happen. Well, kind of around the 60s here. Yeah.
Well, 59.
Yeah, 59, yeah. Anything else? Okay. Well, yes, go ahead, Karen.
My understanding is that the Native Americans left. Was there any interaction, or was it they were gone, or what happened with the white settlers?
There was a departure over time. I'm not a historian and I haven't studied in great detail, so I'm not going to mislead you in any way. But there was a typical response. As the Western Europeans started to migrate from the east to the west, there was a displacement. And the Native American folks continued to move westward. And of course, you know what happened with our attitudes towards the Native American, our belief in manifest destiny that led us to where we are today. Great. Well, I encourage you to see the exhibit if you haven't already done so. And our museum is open on Fridays and Saturdays from noon till 4. And we have a great 1960s exhibit in there right now. And you will learn great things about the assassinations, the Vietnam War, school integration, and that type of thing there. Also, we have a great medical exhibit for you to see as well, seen as a hospital. Well, thanks very much for your attention. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the day.